I am so excited to introduce to you Steve Phillips, who is the CEO and co-founder at Zappi. If you all have any questions for him while he's presenting, please push them through to the app. I'll be able to field those and moderate those, and Steve, I'll let you know as they come in. But he is here to talk to us about how researchers can use AI to do a reverse takeover in marketing.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here again. And so last year I did a talk about AI on this stage and talking about how AI will kill the market researcher. And the idea was that AI can take all our jobs, do all the analysis we want to do. It can write questionnaires. It can interview people. It can write reports, do reports, etc. This year I have a much more hopeful message, which is actually, I've realized that not only can it do all of that, but it can help us as researchers, as insight professionals, do a reverse takeover of marketing. And what I'm going to show today is some work we've been doing, which allows you as an insight professional to do the entire job of the marketing department based on the data that we own. Now, I should say I'm also going to do a shout out to P&G, who still aren't a client. But they came out to me after the presentation last year and challenged us to think of ways of using AI on top of the data asset. And so this partly goes out to them. So when I started in market research, and Greg was talking about it just earlier, it was quite a long time ago. I remember having a presentation at a market research training session, and someone from, and I think it was P&G again, came up and said, the role of the research professional is to be the marketer's accountant. Now, this is the early 90s. Marketers didn't have a lot of data, and we provided them with the data of how well the brand is doing, how well the ad might perform, how well the product would do. They didn't have much other data, so that was the core data they relied on to give them their P&L. At the time, I didn't like it. I thought we could do other things. I thought we could help inspire great thinking instead of just accounting for it. But I think it was a fair enough description of a lot of the ways that marketers looked at and thought about insight. I think we've got a really important role to help inspire, optimize, and validate marketers' ideas. But increasingly with AI, I think we can overcome that and become the creators of ideas, the creators of new products, the creators of new advertising campaigns, and then we can optimize, localize, and perhaps with synthetic data, even personalize those ideas. So we can do everything that a marketer could do based off of consumer insight data. So what is this role of AI? This is effectively, if you're a client of AI, so if any of us using AI, what you're doing is something like this. So you have one of the large language models underneath. My current favorite is Claude, but there's lots of different ones. Well, there's between 5 and 10, and they will just continuously get better. There's a UI on top of them, which is the chat in ChatGPT. And then increasingly, the most important layer, and the layer that is creating a lot of the competition and a lot of the talk in the tech world, is that middle layer of connected data. Because all of those language models will produce roughly the same outcome if you ask it a question or say, I want to generate something, except if you have data. And if you have data to feed the model, then you'll come out with a better outcome than just the model on its own. So that's the interesting space, and it is why I think consumer insight data and consumer insight market researchers will win in this new AI world. Because we have the data. If we manage that data well, if it is harmonized, synthesized, standardized, if it's good quality and accessible, so if we can manage that data asset well, we can do incredibly smart things with it. And if you look around the marketing data stack or tech stack, you will see lots of different types of data. coming from sales data, sales feed, clickstream data, other website data, data about advertising, whether people have viewed it or not, huge amounts of data. But our data is better. Market research, survey data it's not like the other forms of data, which are big data, but shallow. Ours is really genuinely rich data. It is why data. When I was in a cab on the way here, my Uber driver was from Jordan. Of course, he heard my English accent, so started talking about soccer. Started talking about soccer. And I asked him who he supported, and he supported Real Madrid. Now, I thought that was interesting. Guy from Jordan, why on earth would you support Real Madrid? And it turned out that he really admired Ronaldo. And why he admired him was the story of Ronaldo growing up poor. I think he was in Madeira. He's had a mum who had to work 2 jobs to get him through school. This guy from Jordan really resonated. That story resonated with him. So this really close, strong bond and belief in Ronaldo. Now, all of the other data that sits in the CMO tech stack would tell you to put a logo of Real Madrid on an ad or a product. What we know, because we've asked those questions, is why he likes them and the feeling that we could create, which might have nothing to do with Real Madrid and actually to do with his mother, and we can bring that into advertising product ideas. So much more interesting, rich data that we sit on that the rest of the marketing department don't. So with this data, what can we do? At the moment, we're living in a world where testing is outside of the creative space. Right? So the creatives, the marketers go off, have a workshop, come up with some ideas, and then they come back to us and say, oh, can you test this thing for me? Yeah, okay, fine. We'll go and test it. I think we're moving into this world where testing is an inherent part of the creative process. And in fact, it is so tightly bound that the testing and the testing insight is what is creating the idea in the first place. So let me show you this happening in real life. So you're going to meet your new marketing team. So this is a team of agents. I'm sure you've all come across AI agents. What you won't have seen, I'm pretty sure, because I showed it to one of the very large tech platforms and even they hadn't seen it before, so I think this is pretty new, is a series of agents working together. And this was inspired by working with some of our clients and doing experiments with them in terms of how you create an advertising campaign or a product. And what we realized is they would get multiple people with different perspectives in the same room. So we're mimicking that by creating multiple agents with different perspectives and skills and training and put them into the same room with a facilitator agent to build out this new product or service that we're going to create. So what we've done in this particular example is created 9 different agents, 10 if you count the facilitator. Some are trained on Zappi data, so some are all about the category insights or how product people relate to products or brands or advertising campaigns. Some of them are things like a tone of voice agent. So we want to make sure that the outcome of this experiment is in the right tone for the brand. So we brand book. Some of it is best practice. So how does this client go about creating products or services? So we've created each of these agents and we've trained them all individually on different things to play a different role in the process. Now, the most important role in all of this is the facilitator. If you imagine running a project, running a workshop, it is the facilitator that makes the magic happen. It's the facilitator that talks to the right agent at the right time or the right person in the room and gets them to add their insight at the right time and help develop the ideas. So the facilitator agent is the one we've specifically trained to manage that process and that job. So And what we've got is we're training the agent on a whole series of audience reactions, so a big platform of data, reactions to brands, reactions to products, reactions to advertising. So I'm now going to show you this team of agents with a client. The client is in green. So the client is the only human in the meeting room is the client who will be typing in green. Everything else is an individual agent inputting into this process. So they are going to produce... can you get rid of the sound? Sorry, cut the sound. Yeah. So they're going to produce this. This is a smaller team. They're going to build out a new Alka-Seltzer. They're going to build a product concept in the alcohol category. So first of all, the client is going to select which agents they want to use for this project. They're going to have specific instructions per agent, most of that, and we can train the agent. We can make them more or less creative. So we train each of those agents. And then we say, right, what is the project we're going to come up with today? And the client says, I want to create a new alcoholic beverage product. The facilitator says, yeah, sure, but who do you want it for? What type of product? Who do you want it for? They say, we want a seltzer for Gen Z. So immediately the facilitator says, thanks very much. I need some insight. I'm going to go and talk to the category insight agent and get some insight about this product category and this audience. Get some insight down through our data API, surfaces relevant consumer insights from the category, some of which you can see there, and then says, okay, great, I've got some ideas. I'm going to use that very quickly to build an initial concept. So I'm going to go and ask the creative agent, this is what I know about the insight, this is what I know about the category. Can you come up with a concept? They say, what does the concept look like? The client agent, so the specific agent says, you have to make it look like this. So they have built very quickly an initial first draft concept. But we have to make sure whether this fits within the brand guidelines. So the facilitator agent goes back to the client agent and says, this is a new potential concept. Does it work? Is it right? It says, well, yeah, it's not bad. This is the agent saying, not bad, but it's not as good as I would like. Can you push it in this direction? Because I think that's where the brand needs to go. So the facilitator sends it back to the creative agent. The creative agent takes that and starts to rebuild that concept. Having rebuilt the concept, asks the client agent, is this more in line with what you're looking for? Client agent says, yes, like the look of it. Nice looking product concept. Structured how I like, seems to be compelling. So at this stage, the facilitator agent is like, okay, great, we've got a decent concept. It seems to hit the type of things that we want to do. Why don't we evaluate it? Why don't we ask a synthetic respondent what you think of that concept? So we've got a synthetic respondent trained on the right target audience. They come back, they say, yeah, it's good. And we've had multiple ones of this where they've come back and said, it's a 7 out of 10. And the facilitator agent has gone, okay, I'll rebuild one. And they've gone back to the start. Having been approved by the synthetic respondent, visual design agent comes along and says, okay, I'll generate a look and feel for this new product concept. They've developed this image. We show that, or the facilitator agent shows that to the client, the actual client, and the actual client in green, you'll see coming up, says, oh, I'd like to see that at point of sale. So redevelops the product image, and now we have a product concept with a specific image generated and ready to test with real respondents, and that's been developed in like 5 minutes. Now, we think, and we're practicing, in fact, we've got a workshop today to create a new pack. We're looking at creating new advertising campaigns, new strategic positionings, new brands, new logos. We think we can use this approach to create and develop anything that a marketing team would do. But is it any good? It's early stage, we're experimenting, right? So I'm not guaranteeing anything. But at the moment, frankly, we've had ideas that were awful, and we've had ideas that were really top of the mark. We're also, as soon as you get that idea, new product concept, new ad, you can test it immediately. And we've now released the capability of you get the test results, not as a slideshow, but as a button on the system that says, given those responses, can you regenerate my idea for me? So we automatically optimize those ideas. And again, that can happen instantaneously. One of the interesting things about where AI is really strong is probably not where you're expecting. It's really creative. It's really coming up with unique ideas. Where it's weaker than humans at the moment is on overall appeal and believability. So it's a bit wackier than most people. We have to harness it a bit, but that's not what I think a lot of people are expecting. And as soon as we optimize, we see the scores going up, and we have seen scores right at the other end. As I said, we're only experimenting with the training of these agents. These agents are only going to get better over time. This is probably 6 months' work. You can imagine where we'll be in another 6 months' time in terms of how good they are. So I think using this type of approach, we as the insight industry can genuinely do a reverse takeover of marketing. We have the tools now and the data, most importantly the data, to be able to create an agentic world. Apparently it's called an agentic world, an agent-based world trained on our data, trained on our understanding of marketing, trained on what we know about the brand, what we know about the strategy, and we can use that to do everything that would happen in a marketing department. Now, the interesting thing is when you start thinking about implications. So at the moment, if you're creating an ad campaign or a new pack or new product, you probably come up with, after a workshop of a few days, come up with a few ideas. 3 or 4 ideas. You go, okay, let's go and test those ideas. And you get down to one good one and you keep on trying to optimize it. What if we change the paradigm completely? What if we say that the insight department creates in a day 50 new product ideas, 50 new ad campaigns, 50 new packs, all based off consumer insight data. And that's what we do. We then test all 50 of them, throw out 25, optimize 25, and then go to the marketing team on day 3 with 25 really good optimized ideas based off of consumer insight. And we can create lots of different ideas by just pushing the AI in slightly different directions. We can give it different type of data set. So we can get it trained to overcome dislikes, or trained to focus on likes, or trained to focus on more creative, or trained to just focus on a particular niche audience. So we can create all of the ideas that the marketing team need, hand them over as really strong ideas, and that can be our delivery to the marketing team. And then we can say to them, now you can go and execute, because we've become the curators of creativity. Thank you.
Great. I think we have maybe 2 minutes, and there was a few questions that came through the chat. So William Leach would like to know, how do we get MRX professionals to take on this role of behavioral designer? From his experience, having the tech isn't enough. They need to feel inspired and rewarded to take on this role. Any ideas?
So I'm going to go back to what Greg was saying earlier about the different types of researchers. So you've got a third who are really creative, experimental. You've got a third who don't want to do anything new, and a third in the middle. We have to work with the middle and the most creative ones. They're going to be the pirates, but they're also going to be the ones that get promoted. So I think you find those pirates, you find the ones who want to do something differently, and we start with them and then work through the rest.
Great, thank you. And one more question. This is from Anonymous Pizza Lover. What is the value of having individualized agents versus combining some of these?
It's the same value because we tried it with just one agent. It's the same value you get from that cross facilitation in a room. So when you get in a room, when you're creating something and you have different people with different skills bouncing ideas off of each other, the video I showed was a shortened version, and quite often it will take 5 or 10 minutes to come up with the initial idea, and they'll be going back and forth. The tone of voice agent will go, doesn't work, go back to the drawing board. So it's the same creativity, interestingly, that you get from having multiple people with different disciplines.
Perfect. Great. I think that's all we have time for before we move to our next speaker. Thanks.